Welcome back to Conversations with Educators. I'm your host, Jerome Ellison, and today I have a returning guest, Quincy Carter. Thank you, Quincy, for coming back on the show.
Thank you for having me, Jerome.
Yes, yes. Before we start, I want to can you remind the people of like your current role or previous role you've had in education?
So the last time I spoke with you, I was a STEM teacher
Mm,
out in East Harlem.
nice, nice.
Shortly after that, I packed all my bags
Hmm.
and I'm currently in Providence, Rhode Island. I'm with Achievement First Charter Schools. I am there at the middle school here, their academic dean of enrichment. So I cover their art department and I also teach art. So in my department, I have sports,
Mm.
visual arts, culinary arts, dance, and theater.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I think that's so important. That's one of the reasons why I have these conversations because, as you probably know, anytime there's things that affect schools or education, it's often people who talk about it who never been in the classroom, right? So
Absolutely.
I love to amplify the voices of people who actually in the classroom, who've been on the ground and get their
Makes
opinions
sense.
about it. Thank
Yep.
you for sharing. So this time around, we're going to play a quick game. So this game is called Hope, Fear, and Idea. So it's all related to AI in schools, which is the hot topic. So I want you to think about one hope or fear around AI implementation in schools, and then one idea to address that hope or fear. So let's start with the hope or fear.
I think my hope for AI in schools is that it's removed completely.
Mhm.
And that is my hope because like in the idea behind the reason why it is my hope is
Mhm.
because um we have gotten so far away in education from actually teaching kids how to read,
Mhm.
how to write, how to do math. Because it's like, oh, you can just open your phone. Oh, the calculator's right there. All these different, like there's all these different AI softwares and equipment that are built into like everyday school now that kids are not learning how to read and write, which is then impacting their comprehension skills. Because if I can just type some stuff in and the computer's going to correct it for me, why do I need to learn it?
Mhm.
There's no
And
need for it.
yeah, and you're seeing that in the classroom. You're seeing kids just
Oh,
losing
absolutely.
those
Like I
skills.
can't even tell you the number of times where a teacher has come to me like, hey, I have a dilemma. I need some support with it. A student submitted
Mhm.
an assignment, and it's clear that they use ChatGPT to complete the assignment.
Mhm.
All right. And so like
Oh.
my curiosity always is at what point do we actually take education back to what it was? Because there was nothing wrong with it.
Mhm.
Like I look at kids who were born in the 90s, I'm like, we didn't have all of that and we fared pretty well.
Mhm.
We did pretty good compared to what I'm currently looking at in education. Like these were not conflicts that we had. And if these were conflicts in schools at the time, it wasn't this vast.
Mhm.
Now you're talking about like classrooms, like 36 plus kids in the classroom, and this is the conflict. They can't read and write. Like we're struggling greatly in education right now. It's really bad.
Mhm. So do you think there's a middle ground? Do you think people can use AI to improve teaching and write or reading and writing? Or you think this one, you have to have one and not the other? You think it's one of those
I think
things?
before you get to the step of AI, you need to first teach them the basics.
Mm,
Right? And I'm speaking from a space of one being an artist. Before I can say like, oh, I can do all these things, there are some basic skills I need to have before I do that. And so in order
mm,
for you to effectively, right? Because AI is not the conflict. I just
mm,
think it's ineffectively being used.
mm,
Right? But if we actually teach kids the basics of education and what they actually need, then we could implement those things further along in different aspects of their learning environment. A lot of schools talk about we're preparing kids for college and career, and at no point have I ever seen a school actually prepare kids for college and career. You're
mm,
sending them to do the exact thing that America wants you to do, create workers so that
mm,
we build the economy, so that we sustain, like we do these things, but you're not actually, we're not helping anybody. I think right now in education, we're doing more harm than we are doing good, all
mm,
because we're straying away from what we need to be doing as a system. The
mm,
system is also broken, which is a much deeper dialogue, right?
mm, mm,
But from like on the surface level, yeah, there's some just some basic skills that kids just don't have that they need to have in order for them to be successful in life.
So that moves into the idea part. What idea do you think should be implemented or can be implemented to address that fear that you have?
I think I guess you can say, each section, if you will, or level, they need to have they need to look drastically different, right? When you think about elementary school, that needs to look a certain way.
Mm,
But when you're in middle school, that needs to look something completely different. And I think we like everybody knows middle school rough. Very rough,
Mm-hmm.
right? That
Mm-hmm.
needs something very, very, very specific. Um, High school needs something different than both of those, right? And so my thought is always like, again, when you talk about like college and career, I would love to see schools set up in a way that resemble that of a college, especially like starting at middle school. Like there should be some transitional things happening, i.e., kids, yeah, they need to take English, they need to take math, they need to take science, history, right? Who's teaching these classes? Is there one person per grade or two people per grade teaching that class? Or do we have a number of people who can come in just like you would at college and kids can say, that's the teacher that I want to take that class with?
Mm-hmm.
Because all kids don't learn the same. And so we're lumping kids together, we're sticking them into classrooms. The way this teacher is teaching, not how that kid comprehends, not the language they speak. How do you differentiate in your classroom between a kinesthetic learner versus a visual learner or an auditory learner? But if you had
Mm-hmm.
teachers who teach to these different things, wouldn't we have more successful kids?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't
So
our
let me
test
ask. Mm-hmm.
wouldn't our test
Let,
scores be better than what they are because like we're giving the kids the thing that they need that
mm,
they actually comprehend here in their minds. Like, nope, I get it. If you show me something, okay, I got it. But if you tell me something, I'm not gonna remember that. And
mm.
kids are the same exact way. And
So to
so at
that
what
point,
point?
to that point, let me ask you this, because that made me think about something. So do you think, because I've heard this before as well, do you think, because I know you said your fear is, your hope is to get rid of AI completely on the
Yeah,
kid side, right? So
right.
some of the issues that you're sharing, do you think AI could support teachers of doing some of this differentiation and support?
Absolutely, but teachers are also adults, right? So your mindset is different. It's not the mindset of a child. A
Mm,
child is just like, I don't, most kids don't want to do this. They don't want to be in school, right?
mm,
But legally, they have to go to school. But they don't want to be there. You mean to tell me for 8 hours of my day, I gotta sit in a classroom, I have to listen to somebody lecture at me about all these things that in truth, I just don't understand. So y'all don't need the AI. Adults, on the
mm,
other hand, how is that incorporated? I can remember teaching. I taught from my iPad when I was in the last I spoke to you. I was teaching from my iPad.
mhm,
I'm at the back of the
mhm,
classroom. I'm drawing on the iPad, doing the things on the iPad, and it's popping up on the board for kids. So
mm,
yeah, it works. It works in schools, just not for the people who need it the most.
mm,
And it's the kids who need some support. The kids need to like adults. They've gone to middle school. They've gone to high school. They've gone to college. Obviously, that's why they're standing in front of you. They're
mm,
not the ones who need this education. But
mm,
we also did not have AI growing up. For us, it was very much you learn these things.
mm.
So what's so wrong with kids just learning the things that they need to know? And like maybe I would say like, should it be introduced later in middle school, like eighth grade through
I
high
was gonna
school?
ask that. I was gonna ask that.
Absolutely, right? There's some ways
Mm,
to implement it there. But you're talking about like I'm witnessing pre-K kids, and I'm like, they're just like my mom's in like all my siblings, my mother in education. My
mm,
pre-K, I'm like, girl, what do your children need with
mm,
this? Everybody's just like throwing iPhones at their kids and throwing iPads at the kids, and there's like a tablet or some sort in front of them. That's not what kids need. You're ruining, like
mm.
you're harming them greatly. You're frying their brains before they're able to even think for themselves.
Wow. An interesting point because, as you said, even the iPhones now will have AI in it. So the earlier we introduce it to the kids, the more they'll be,
They're
leaning
so
on that
dependent
AI
on
instead,
it.
dependent on it instead of using their own skills and
Hmm.
developmentally getting to the point where maybe in middle school and high school and beyond, they'll be in a point where they have those foundational skills. And AI can only enhance that. They can use the
Absolutely.
tools
Right. It's about,
to
see,
help them.
AI, and I think anything that is created, it's about the enhancement,
Mm,
right? It's not about it being the thing, but we're living in a world where AI is just the thing.
mm,
It's not enhancing the things because people don't have the basic skills for them to then take that AI and enhance those skills,
mm,
right? Even as an artist, I do a lot of painting, I do a lot of sewing, but then I can hop on my iPad and I can digitally do some things with AI to enhance that piece of work, right? That's what
mm,
photography is. When you go to edit, that's you're using like AI to fix this thing up to make it look better so that it's visually appealing for people.
mm,
But the natural thing, there also is still beauty in that. And so just like
mm,
education, like there's beauty in teaching kids how to multiply, how to use a multiplication table, knowing basic multiplication, basic division. Like they have all these cool, unique ways to teach kids. It ain't making a difference, y'all.
mm.
It's not changing anything. They don't understand it on the basic level. So when are we as educators and like, and it's not even so much just educators, like it's the people who are above us, like you just said, they've never been in a classroom before.
Mm,
But you got everything to say, but you don't know what's best.
mm,
I even find myself now like people who sit at the network level. I don't want your opinion and your advice about what this looks like. You've not been in a classroom in 5+ years. You don't actually know.
mm,
You're basing your assumptions off of what you see when you walk into a classroom. You're basing your assumptions off of, oh, what studies are being read. I don't care about any of that because it's not authentic to what we are actually dealing with on a day-to-day in a classroom.
mm,
Show me somebody who's at the network level who also at least once or twice a week is going to one of their schools and teaching at their schools.
mm,
I feel like if you're going to be at the network level, if you're going to be in leadership, you need to at least once or twice a week be in somebody's classroom teaching. If you're not, you don't need to be leading anything. That's why I'm so adamant about it. When people ask me, like, I still teach. And since I've moved here, there's not been a year that I've not taught, even
mm,
as a leader. And I'm still
mm,
teaching one because it keeps my skills sharp as an educator. But how am I going to tell a teacher, here's what you need to be doing? You don't even practice what you preach.
mm,
So no, I don't want to I don't want to hear those things. And so like they're just dropping all these things down on teachers like, "Oh, you don't know."
mm,
Kids know how to behave when adults who are not from their school walk into the classroom.
mm,
Kids know how to get right. Is that
mm,
authentic to what's happening here though? No. They're
mm,
putting on a show for you because they know that's what you're looking for. They know that's what you're expecting. But I can
mm,
bet you if you came to our school more often as a network leader, you'd be like, "Oh, this is not what we witnessed the last time we was here." Right, because it's not real. They're doing it because they know the end result of it. But if
Great
you
point.
took that time and just, did the thing, I think you'd get some different results.
Mm. Yeah, it's always nothing like teaching. It's nothing like being in the classroom. That's the
Yeah.
only way to really know what's on the
It
ground,
keeps
what's
that
happening.
connection between even like again as leaders, like it keeps that connection between you and your school community. Kids are not just like, oh, that's the disciplinarian. Like, no, that's the disciplinarian, but also she teaches us a life skills class.
Mm, mm,
She teaches a mind like if you're going to be the dean of culture student experience, you should be teaching a mindfulness class at your school.
mm,
How do kids like how teaching kids how to regulate their emotions? Yeah, you should.
mm.
Absolutely. If you're teaching an English class at a school, like if you're leading the English class, then you should be able to teach a class on grammar. Why? Because it's not being taught in the classroom. So you should be doing that fill-in for the areas where it's not being taught in the classroom so that teachers actually can focus on that content that the network says this is what has to be taught. And as a leader, you're like, okay, I know it has to be taught, but here's some skills that they need to lead in order for them to effectively do that. And I'm going to be the one to teach it.
Mm.
Now people
Yeah.
believe in you as a leader. They were like, oh, well, that person's just not about leading, but they're like, I'm in it with you all. You need some leaders who are in it with him who says, while AI is nice, not for my kids. They need some other
Mm,
things before they jump to AI.
mm.
Yeah,
To that point, just if I could wrap it up around the hope or fear and idea, what I'm hearing is your hope is that AI has no place in students until they reach a certain age. And
absolutely.
then the idea would be to maybe allow teachers to use it to support students, but then for students, only allow them in high school to use it to enhance their learning, not to just
Right.
be the main
Absolutely.
teacher of the learning.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Interesting. All right. Thank you for sharing. I love that.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for coming on again, and thank you guys for watching. See you next time.
Have a good one.